greetings and welcome again to the Chairman's Report. I'm Tom Kynard, and we have, of course, the Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee with us in the South Carolina Senate, and that is Senator Hugh Leatherman. Senator, always a pleasure to see you.
Tom, great to be with you.
We have one of your good friends with us today. We always have a guest, and in fact, he's a return guest, and he is Speaker of the House of Representatives, and that's the Honorable Bobby Harrell. And Speaker Harrell, it's great to see you.
Tom, it's great to be here with you. I've done your radio show with you before, too.
Yes, sir.
So great to be here with you in either the television or the radio format. And it's always good to be with my good friend, Senator Leatherman, for whom I have incrable respect.
Yes,
so
sir.
Just great to be here with you. Thank you.
Very good. Well, I'm a whole lot better looking on the radio, I can tell you that. Anyway, you were first elected to the South Carolina House back in 1993.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not even going to ask how old you were then.
I think I was 15.
Yeah, okay. All right. We have a child prodigy with us. And you currently represent District 114. It includes Charleston and Dorchester counties. And now, while you were in the House of Representatives, you became the House Majority Leader, but you were Chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, and that's the one that handles the money in the House. And, of course, Senator Leatherman, Chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, that's the money in the Senate. And so you folks had to work closely together.
Well, Senator Leatherman and I have been friends since before that, but certainly when we were both serving as chairman of the two money committees, finance committees, Ways and Means Committee, we worked very, very closely together over those years. And then since I've become Speaker, frankly, nothing's changed. We still work very closely together on a number of issues. Very
good. Well, you just answered my question then. So everything is hokey dokey then, huh?
Absolutely.
Tom,
very good. Yes, sir.
Speaker Harrell was a great chairman of Ways and Means. He did a great job. He understands the needs of the state. He understands the things that people expect of their elected officials, and he always did that. He's a great Sacramento.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And takes care of his people in District 114 too. That's very good.
You can't forget who sends you to Columbia. I mean, that's frankly, we do these jobs that are statewide jobs. I mean, Speaker and Chairman of Senate Finance clearly are jobs where you have to make sure that you're helping the entire state of South Carolina. But you better never forget who sent you to Columbia to begin with, because as quickly as they sent you, they can unsend you to Columbia.
That's kind of like my daddy used to say, that as long as you put your feet under my table, you'll do what I say. All right, major issues from the past legislative session. Let's talk about the new 7th Congressional District. Boy, we had a barn burner going there for a little while.
We did.
That was something. What impact do you see the 7th District, which has been pre-cleared by the U.S. Justice Department, and that was a major hurdle, it's going to have on the state of South Carolina? And then, Senator Leatherman, if you would talk about the impact it's going to have on the PD.
Sure.
The impact for South Carolina as a state is great. I mean, we have another voice in Washington. We've had 6 congressmen from South Carolina for, 100 years.
1931.
Right, since 1931.
Right.
So now we're back to 7, which is where we were before that.
Right.
It's great to have an additional voice in Washington. It just makes our delegation a little stronger. I think, and I know Senator Leatherman will talk about this, but I think getting back to where the PD has a particular representative for this area is particularly good too. So it's just a great thing for the state.
Okay.
I also think it speaks volumes about people picking South Carolina to live in. You know, we're growing. Our population is growing, which is why we have the 7th District. But it's growing from people moving here, and people move here because it's a great place.
Okay, very good. And
Tom, the new 7th District being in the PD, we can't imagine what that'll do for our area at this point in time. We can have our own congressman, which has not been true because the current 6th District, Congressman Clyburn does a good job, obviously, but it goes from Florence, Williamsburg, Georgetown, Charleston, Orangeburg, Columbia. So his interest has to be very widespread. It can't be just one local area. Now that we have our own congressman, I use that term, we will. Then you're going to see a tremendous difference. And you know, most people don't understand this, but the population that growth allowed us to get that 7th District brings more money into the state. That's the way they divvy up the money, depending on how many people, how many congressmen you have.
Okay.
So I'm excited about it.
all right, sir. Very good. All right. And so we're going to elect the 7th District next next year.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of elections, it's presidential primary time.
It is.
Yes, it is.
And things are heating up for the First in the South primary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're recording this a couple of weeks before Christmas, but we're not too far from that First in the South primary. And Speaker Harrell, what do we need to do as a state to maintain First in the South?
Great question, because that is critical. You know, we're about as we record this, we're about 6 weeks away from the election, right, or the primary right now. It is critical that South Carolina make sure that we do what we have to do to maintain First in the South status. You go with Iowa, New Hampshire, and then they come to us after that. We have incredible influence as a state over who the next president is. No Republican has ever won the nomination without winning South Carolina. As a result of that, we end up with incredible influence as a state in Washington once that Republican particularly wins and becomes the president of the United States. So it is a great thing for our state because of the influence that it gives us. And frankly, our state is a very good cross-section of different kinds of people across the country. I mean, for everything from being a conservative state and more of a conservative population, we've got a significant minority population in the state. I mean, we are a great, I want to say microcosm, that's probably the wrong word, but we're just an excellent bellwether, I guess, for the rest of the state, which is why I believe that we've always picked the person who wins the nomination on the Republican side, because we're indicative of what the country is probably looking for.
Boy, you talk about a NASCAR race. Somebody be leading, they get a Darlington stripe, and then there's somebody else that comes to the end. I don't know where that thing's going to end. I'm just glad I'm not involved in that one thing. The new legislative session is coming up, and you're going to have the gavel in the House again, of course. And one hot topic is tax reform. Senator, of course, you've been working on tax reform for several years.
Tom, we really have, and of course the joint committee last year, the track commission, came up with tax reform. But I heard the speaker say earlier today, and I agree with this. It's such a tremendous package, you can't take it all at one time. We're going to have to take parts of it, deal with that, move to another part. If you try to do it all at one time and you try to take some exemptions away or put others in place, people come out of the woodwork, constituents for those programs or those needs, and you just can't do it all at once.
And everybody seems to have a good point.
Well, they do, Tom, and of course we're facing something right now. Our Supreme Court has heard the arguments on doing away with all the exemptions. Sounds good, but you can't do that. I don't think the people out there want sales tax put on their electricity at home.
That's right.
Their water. You know, those kind of things.
Groceries, prescription drugs.
Yes.
Right. Advertising.
Yep.
You know, all this.
So
everything's would affect it. You know.
It sounds good, and one of my colleagues, Senator Vernon Smith, always had an answer. He said, "Senator, you oversimplified it," and you can do that, can't you?
All right. Now, Speaker Harrell, you said in the past couple of weeks that we are going to see some type of reform.
I'm committed to us doing that.
Right.
When you say we are going to see it, it's got to get through the House, it has to get through the Senate, we end up with a conference committee. I mean, there's a long way from point A to point B to get that finished. But I'm committed to getting there, as I know a lot of House members are. Senator Leatherman's committed to getting there. So you got a lot of people pushing in the same direction, trying to make it happen.
Very good. Now, this is the second year of the biennial, but it's also an election year. And that sometimes has an effect on things.
I think it helps with this particular issue because the public wants to see something done. And having everybody on the ballot, frankly, helps when the public wants something.
All right, sir. Very good. Everybody's looking for a job.
They are.
And speaking of jobs, let's talk about that Boeing thing. That is so big. People, Senator, you said last time we were together that people don't realize how big this thing is.
Can't imagine. They just can't imagine how big it is,
Right.
Tom. You know, I look at the Boeing company out in the Washington State, 82,000 employees work for the Boeing company. We're nowhere close to that here, but I'm convinced we've got a lot of Boeing in our future. You're going to see more and more things. They've just opened their second plant, North Charleston, to make the interior of the planes, the bins, the partitions, things of that nature.
Right.
So we're excited about Boeing, and of course Boeing just had a great win. And LRB brought that action against them, trying to force Boeing to go back to Washington State to assemble the 787.
$750 million and throw it in the ocean and put 1,000 people out of jobs.
But you know, you can't do that, Tom, because if that would have prevailed, there's nothing in the world that keeps a governmental agency from saying to a bank, oh, you can't build across town. We're going to tell you where you can build.
Right.
That was the real ramification that would have come about from this.
Right.
The thing that was particularly scary to me with the NLRB action was that Boeing chose to go to a right-to-work state. So the Obama administration's NLRB, which is not a business-friendly group of people, decided to come after Boeing picking the right-to-work state. The thing, talking about things folks may not realize, Senator, if Boeing had decided instead to put that plant in Mexico or Canada or China or India or anywhere else in the world, and they're 787 jets. I mean, they can build them anywhere and fly them to where they're going.
That's right.
If they had decided to do that, the NLRB would not have jurisdiction over those locations. So the message to major manufacturers in the United States from the NLRB and this administration is, don't put a plant in the United States, put it somewhere else, and then we won't mess with you. That is a bad message coming out of Washington.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, very, very well stated. Suppliers.
Yes.
They haven't even started getting suppliers yet.
Tom, we have two suppliers that have looked at our area. One of them is a French company that makes the doors for the planes. So we're excited about what's going on here. We'll see a lot of Boeing.
Super. Very good.
One of the neat things about BMW is that we all talked about the BMW plant when that was done years ago. There are suppliers for BMW in just about every county in the state.
Right.
Boeing's going to be the same way, perhaps even bigger, frankly, with suppliers literally spread all over the state. It is a great thing for South Carolina.
And with the Myrtle Beach Airport, which is a lot longer than we have anywhere else because that we used to be the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, then Boeing has announced that they're going to be doing a lot of test flights out of there.
They will.
And that, especially when in the springtime when they have all the tourists and everything, people looking at that beautiful 787, man, that's going to really be good.
It is excellent.
A lot of folks coming from out of state saying, I want to be part of this. This is exciting. This is really going to be something.
Tom, you mentioned that. I went to the air show in Paris this year, and listening to the companies over there, we called on many companies while we were there. You know, their first question was, tell us how South Carolina attracted Boeing. You must have an awful lot going for your state if a company like that came there. So it opens those doors for us. Otis Elevator. I called on United Technology, which is the parent company of Otis, while I was over there. And they said, tell us how you got Boeing there. We need to know. Of course, you know they just announced here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The old Amana building. And
correct.
I had heard people say, nope, that thing's too big. We'll never put somebody in there. Otis is coming. They're going to redo it, and I understand they're going to have a tower coming out the top.
180-foot tall tower.
That's a pretty good sized tower.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's great. Oh man, that's
great. For the testing, in some way or another, if you have a big building and you want certain elevators and the bells and whistles you want on it, then they will put that in that tower, and you can go up and down and check it out and everything.
Wow.
I mean,
that's great.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Hot issue in Columbia, and this is talking about what I do now is economic development and everything. And of course, Senator Leatherman, you lead the way in this area. The permit which DHEC recently approved for the Port of Savannah, it's a mess. It's a mess. Tell us what happened.
I wish I could.
We wish we could. We don't know.
I mean, I'm incredibly disappointed in the decision.
Really. Do we know how it's going to affect the state?
You know, there are two issues where the Port of Charleston and the Port of Savannah are concerned. One is certainly competition and the Panamax ships, and us wanting to make sure that we deepen our harbor so that we're competitive and we get us where we need to be. But there's also an environmental issue that a lot of folks, in all the conversation that I've heard in the state, I don't hear as much conversation about the environmental issues, but I'm really worried about how that affects the water table in Hilton Head and in Beaufort, because where they're deepening runs right over the aquifer that serves those two cities. This idea that they're going to put these oxygenators in the river to pump oxygen into the river. Senator Leatherman was saying to me earlier, I got a kick out of the way he put this. What did you say? It's kind of like putting one of those things on a fish tank?
It's the bubblers going into the fish tank at home. That's what
Okay.
Right,
All right.
but they're going to put a lot of them.
Yeah, they'll need a lot of them. About the river's big.
That's right. So I don't understand how that works. From my perspective, and Senator Leatherman obviously can speak for himself, don't mean to speak for you, friend, but I am just very disappointed over the decision. I think it's a mistake, not just from a competitive position, but from the environmental position. They didn't have any conversation with the Department of Natural Resources about it. That's what's been reported. They didn't talk to the Maritime Commission the senator serves on. I mean, I'm very disappointed in that decision.
Is there any way to get it reversed?
Tom, we're working on that. I too was very disappointed, and the thing that puzzles me most, and we had a hearing in Columbia last week, the thing that puzzles me most, DHEC had denied the permit. Then they came back and through the governor asked for to be revisited, and she allowed that. I'm not being critical of that, that's her prerogative. But they had 1 hour to digest all these things that were proposed that made them decide to reverse that. That's impossible. And, you know, we pinned down the chairman of the DHEC board, pinned down the board members, and said, tell us, how did this happen? Said, well, they complied with everything. Well, let's talk about how they complied. And they said, well, we'll have to leave that to staff. We're not sure. That's the kind of answer we got. So there's something here that just does not ring true. We'll get to the bottom of it. If you ask any way to reverse it, we're going to try our dead level best to do it.
Okay.
The Maritime Commission unanimously voted to appeal that DHEC permit. Second, we unanimously voted to go to circuit court to find out who's got jurisdiction, whether it's the Maritime Commission or whether it's DHEC. And then, of course, the third thing we will do is if the Corps of Engineers says we don't need the South Carolina permit, then we'll go to the federal courts and say we want to find out about this.
Okay.
So I think there'll be a lot of time between now and the time that Savannah, Georgia gets to put a shovel in the ground.
Okay. That port in Charleston has been important since day one in South Carolina. That's where the first the first English settlers came anyway.
That's right.
And has been very important to the eastern seaboard, and now the whole Atlantic Ocean on this side of it. And to just do away with it, that bothers me as and I'm just a taxpayer, but
Governor Campbell years ago said that the three most important things that he needed for economic development were Santee Cooper, the Department of Commerce, and the Port of Charleston. I mean, that's what Governor Campbell put it in the top three most important things to him back when he was governor and did the incredible job that he did in economic development.
Oh, yeah. He was the one who brought BMW.
That's correct. That's right.
Tom, you mentioned BMW. BMW would not have been here without the port. Let me tell you why.
No, that's right.
They were not able to put together the parcels of land up in Greenville-Spartanburg area. The port got involved and went out and actually purchased those parcels, which they were reimbursed for. Had we not had the port, BMW wouldn't be here.
Wow. And as you said, they have suppliers all over the state.
Tom, they have suppliers, but let me tell you what else they have. 280,000 jobs in our state are connected to the port.
Wow. Man, that is something. Well, it looks like we're beginning to level off, and some of the unemployment is going down, so maybe we're starting to ramp back up and get back to where we were. And of course, the budget's going to be the big thing. I heard that they're saying we're going to have some more money coming into the state. So what do you see in the budget?
The budget to me is kind of an indicator of where the economy is going. With sales tax collections up and income tax collections up, it tells you that things are getting a little better out there. I think that things would get a lot better faster if we eliminated the uncertainty that's in Washington today.
Right.
I'm getting partisan with you for just a minute, but I believe that a lot of what's going on, and business people tell me frequently that they have such uncertainty over what the rules are going to be coming out of Washington, whether it's health care or whether it's in, governmental regulations or whatever it is coming out of Washington, that uncertainty is causing capital to stay on the sidelines and not get invested so that our economy is not coming back as fast as it could. I think if we have a change in the presidency, frankly, I believe that uncertainty will dissipate and the economy will come screaming back. In the absence of a change in the presidency, I think my anticipation is that we'd probably have a slow recovery and things would continue to get better, but not nearly at the pace they would if we eliminated this uncertainty that the business community faces coming out of Washington today.
Okay. Senator, on the way over here today, I drove by Commerce City.
Yes.
And man, they're cutting the roads and the ramps and everything for the new interchange.
Right.
And we want to be ready for that when the time comes. And speaking of that, now that's a federal thing. That's not part of the 1 cent makes sense thing that we have. By the way, Speaker Harrell, before you leave, I want you to fill up with gas or purchase something.
Absolutely.
And we'll get a few pennies from you too.
Right.
And we appreciate that. But Senator Leatherman, you had nearly 300 people at a chicken bog that you had just recently.
We did.
Pine Needles Road. Tell me about that.
Tom, they finished the first project, the first of the 6 that's on that referendum people approved. Incidentally, the speaker's area did a half cent just approved. And I'm down there seeing what it does. Same thing here. It will open our county up tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
And you aren't going to get industry and jobs if they can't move their goods and people.
That's right.
And we're just excited about this. The people that I'm listening to are excited. They should be. This was a 2-to-1 match. And of course, with our interstate here and the mall out there, we Florentines are paying about 16 cents out of every dollar for the roads that we're building. Isn't that a deal?
Yes, sir. That is a deal.
I was in Rock Hill the other day, and in Rock Hill, the sales tax you're talking about, they passed it and they've actually renewed it twice.
That's right.
And both times that the public has renewed it there, the vote's gotten bigger in favor of it. This past time, they had almost 80% of the people vote in favor of it.
Yeah.
The key is that the public has to see that you're building the roads, that you're improving the infrastructure, that you're doing those concrete, pardon the pun, things that folks want to see happen.
Right.
If government uses that money properly, and Florence is, if they do the projects and they do it properly, the public actually wants to see those kinds of things done. What the public doesn't want to see is taxes raised and them not have accountability and not know where that money is gone.
Right, that's it.
When Florence successfully builds the roads that y'all are talking about, what will happen is if the community wants to continue that, you'll have bigger votes in favor of it going forward, because that's what's happened. I mentioned Rock Hill specifically because I was there just the other day.
Right.
But
they've done a lot.
But in multiple communities around the state, that's been the case. When the public sees real, solid construction occurring of the things they think matter, then they support these kinds of efforts.
Well, we invite them to go out to Pine Needles Road and see that.
Well, we had a big crowd out there, Tom. We invited the whole community to come out, eat chicken bog, and they did. The comments I heard, favorable comments, are unbelievable. They said, Senator, we need to do more of this. And that's exactly what you're saying, Mr. Speaker.
Fantastic. And what is the next project on the list?
Next one would be 378 down next to Lex City. And then, of course, we've got the TV Road, which is something that QVC asked for when they came here. We will do that. Then you have 76 to Timminsville. Then you have Highway 51 to Pamplico, Johnsonville. So we're excited about this.
Yes, sir. This is going to be fine. Don't forget to leave us some money before you leave.
Roads, I get it.
Very good. Speaker Bobby Harrell, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's been a pleasure, Tom. Thank you. And it's great to be with you.
And, of course, I think I'm speaking for Senator Leatherman. You're invited back anytime.
Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
We'd love to have him here.
Thank you.
And we'll be doing the radio show from Senator Leatherman's office. And look forward to you joining us at that time.
I look forward to doing that again.
Good, thank you, sir. I think you have your son with you today, and
I
he's
do.
just finishing law school.
That's exactly right.
Man, that's great.
That's
I know
right.
you're proud of that.
Oh, incredibly proud
Yeah.
of him, and because he just finished up, he's just kind of traveling around with me today.
Yeah.
So it's great having him around.
You gonna try to get a wheel out of him or something? Very good. And Senator Leatherman, thank you very much.
Tom,
as
thank
always.
you for allowing us to come and allow me to bring my dear friend, Speaker Harrell.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And a happy 2012 to both of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And to you too, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us. Join us again next time on the Chairman's Report. I'm Tom Kynard. God bless America.